Everyone sit down, please. Art club those days and got inspired. Did some decent work. I used to be a copywriter. And my work got noticed at the Bangalore Art Club. There is a award show called the Big Bang Awards. And then agencies in Bombay saw my work and kind of invited me or transferred me or gave me jobs in Bombay. And that's how I ended up in Bombay for about 20 years. So last December, one of the advertising club Bangalore's executive committee members invited me to join the executive committee, and we were talking about my first question was, what is the role of the ad club in Bangalore? And I was told that, we have a lot of events going on, and then we sat down and brainstormed and, came up with an idea called the Inspiration Room, because we also had a session where we invited about 100 founders and CEOs of big agencies and small to come in and be part of a brainstorm session as to what the advertising club should do for us. And one of the most important things that came out in that discussion was they wanted the advertising club to come forward and help them train their young people and their leadership teams and all that. So last month we had our first Inspiration Room event. I don't know if any of you from this room, I know I've seen a few people from here join us. That was at another brew pub, thankfully supported by Adobe, so we didn't have to charge a fee and things like that. But this time around, so this is the second session that we are having under Inspiration Room, and we are very fortunate to have Mr. Schubach, who's a kind of a safari guide and kind of a leadership training coach. So he was coming to India thanks to our friend Balaji, who's a good friend of mine, and he was talking to me about Ian and his company coming to India and wanting to set up their training sessions for the industry in this country, leadership training. But the fact that he is a creative guy in the sense that while he's a leadership coach, what he's really trying to do is he's bringing all the work that he's done in the wild with wild animals, and he's going to do a session for us today where he is going to show us how all of us can pick up some ideas from what he's learned in the wild. He's going to do an interactive session. It's going to be for about 90 minutes. There's going to be a lot of learning, I hope. And I invite Ian to please come on stage. Please raise your hands for Ian. He's just flown down from Sydney, and he's going to share the stage for us and inspire us this evening. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Nisha. Thank you. Well, thank you, Nishad. And thank you for inviting me here. I heard you say that the first iteration of the Inspiration Room was about generative AI. You couldn't get further from what I'm going to be talking about. So you certainly are going to get a wide variety of topics in the Inspiration Room. As you can hear, I wasn't originally born in Bengaluru. That's obvious. I grew up close to Kruger National Park in eastern southern Africa. I worked as a safari guide for 6 years. And really my origins, where I grew up, was in the bush. I'm not sure if any of you have experienced a time in your life where you feel disconnected. I felt it most acutely in my very early 20s. I was really drifting. My folks, I was staying at home at the time, and my parents turned around to me and they said, "Ian, I think it's time that you spread your wings." And we know what that means, don't you? Out you go. So I needed a job, and I was desperate for a job, and I'll never forget the time I was sitting in a cafe in Johannesburg, and I saw a little advertisement. Back in the day, of course, you got jobs from advertisements in newspapers, and it said, "Game rangers wanted, no chances." Now, no chances in South African slang means don't bother applying for this job if you're not serious about it. Now, I had no idea about what game rangers did, but I was lucky enough that my parents took me to the African bush from a young child. And I loved the bush. And I thought this sounded a lot better than anything else that was around. So I drove down the 7 hours from Johannesburg down to the Kruger National Park, and I discovered that this was a 14-day long job interview. And there were another 13 aspirant safari guides that would be tested over these 2 weeks. Now, I did okay in the theory, but the thing that really excited me was the practical side of the job. Jumping in an open-air Land Rover and driving through the bush and explaining my love of nature to others. I could see this being something I would do. So by the time the 13th day of this 14-day long course rolled around, I was desperate for the job. For the first time in my life, I really wanted something. And the closing part of this job interview was effectively a mock game drive, where we would take the fellow rival young aspirant safari guides out on safari, and the senior guide would sit there and he would evaluate you, and every 30 minutes you switched. New guide, new guide, new guide. That's how it was set up. My chance came when the sun was just set like this, just as the sun was going down. In fact, similar to that. And I came around the corner and I saw a herd of zebra grazing on the savannah. So I did what the textbook says, which is switch off the engine so people can hear you. And I turned around and I started to talk to the guests, my rivals. I was halfway through a description when all of a sudden I heard the following sound, this. It was loud and it was close. And I'd never heard that sound in my life before. And I'm a competitive person. So I just looked through the corner of my eye and I saw that my rival guides, their eyes were as wide as mine were. They obviously didn't know what that sound was either. But there was one person on that Land Rover that did know what that sound was. And his name was John Dixon, and he was the senior guide. And to be honest, John had looked completely bored for the previous 13 days. But the moment that he heard that sound, John changed. His eyes widened like this. His nostrils flared. He grabbed me out of the driver's seat. He pulled me across. He jumped in and he headed off through the bush, driving fast towards that sound. He drove maybe 200 meters or so, stopped, just turned around and went shh, 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 shh to us. Then he turned around and said, Ingwe call. Now, Ingwe is the Shangaan name, the local language name for leopard. That was a territorial leopard out marking its turf. And John knew that sound. And one thing I was to discover is that what John loved was leopard. Everything about leopard turned John on. So we sat there for probably 5 minutes, just listening. And then all of a sudden we heard this. It was a squirrel, tree squirrel, making an alarm call. Now that squirrel wasn't alarming at us. That squirrel was alarming at the leopard. It was scared of the leopard, so it was warning other squirrels and other animals around, watch out. Now, of course, John knew about squirrel language. And we drove towards the squirrel. We saw the squirrel, but we didn't see the leopard. So we stopped. John got out of the Land Rover, walked round, found a track, saw the direction in which the animal was going, came back, said it's a male. And we drove on that set of tracks next to a dry riverbed. Then an impala started to make calls. Impala is a small red antelope that live in herds. It started to make a call. Got there, still no leopard. But every little step of the way, we got closer and closer and closer to our target, using human ingenuity, creativity, and experience. And finally, we found that leopard. Golden, it was dark, golden in the spotlight. And that 20 minutes of bush theater, and that's the only way I can describe it. Bush theater hooked me. I became a game ranger, a safari guide that evening, and to be honest, that's what I've been for the rest of my life. I'm a guide. I'm a guide at my core. Now, I've done other things. I've been involved in a business, and I run my own business, but at my core, I was lucky enough in my early 20s to find what drove me, what gave me inspiration, and that was to be a guide. So today, what we're going to be doing is doing a few things. I'm going to be telling you a little bit of my experience as a guide for 6 years and how my interests evolved over that time. And then depending on our energy levels and excitement levels, and we might even go on a mini safari, tracking safari, where we'll put your skills at test, and we'll have some fun. And then we'll do a Q&A at the back. How does that sound? Sound okay? I'm getting a thumbs up. That's a good sign. Okay. So the first thing that and in fact, I'm actually embarrassed to say this. The first 2 years of my guiding career, my game ranging career, I treated the guests, my clients, my customers, I treated them like they were an inconvenience to my lifestyle. I don't know if anyone here has been on safari in Africa. A couple. You'll know for most parts it's an expensive endeavor. You know, to fly around the world and to land there, and you've got this dream in your mind that you're going to find the big five of Africa, and you've saved all your life sometimes to get there, and it's thousands of dollars a night, and this is a big thing for those guests. For me, I wasn't interested in that. I was just interested in the bush. Everything about the bush. Geology, trees, birds, animals, the way they all connect, that was really my interest. And I was occasionally would communicate some little pearl of wisdom to these people that had spent a huge amount of money. It was embarrassing now, I think. If I think about it now, I'm embarrassed. But my life changed one day when on safari we were following a pride of lions, and they'd just completed a hunt. They'd been hunting a wildebeest. And on the back of my vehicle happened to be a guest from Wall Street in the US. Now, you know what it's like when you travel. You can physically be in a completely different place, physically, but mentally, your mind is still working on the office problems. So when we'd watched this pride of lion do their thing with this wildebeest, this guy turned around to the guest that was next to him and said, I wish my team back in the office behaved like that pride of lion had just behaved. I could not believe my ears. Because this thing is brutal. I mean, when you watch a pride of lion take down a wildebeest, it's noise and guts and gore, and it's not pretty. So I was alarmed. Because I thought, well, if that's what Wall Street aspires to, and I mean, that's scary. But I was young and a little nervous. But that evening I plucked up enough courage. I walked up to him and I said, what did you mean by that? And I explained my misgivings. He said, no. So let me stop you right there. I'm not talking about the blood and the guts and the gore. I'm talking conceptually what I saw. When that pride of lion, that team of lion, saw that wildebeest and they sprung into action, every single lioness seemed to know what they were doing. They were all focused on taking down that prey. And later, when we saw the lionesses with the cubs and the way in which they were training those cubs, I'd like to see more of that kind of attitude within my team. I'd like to see more of that ownership and accountability in my team. And he started to go through 2 or 3 ideas, general team ideas, high-performance team ideas. And I was intrigued. I was fascinated by this. So I developed the habit that every single time a guest arrived on my Land Rover, I would ask them what they did. And this is a high-end place, so many people were successful business people, and they would share their view of nature through their eyes. So I, like a sponge, learned a little bit about that. And then one day somebody turned around and said, look, we're here for a conference. We've got 3 days. One of the things that we're struggling with is getting everybody to focus on a common goal. I've just heard you talk about lions and their ability to work as a team. Could you come and speak at our conference? Tell lion stories, but with a business lens. And I mean, I did that for a living. That was just an extension of the 8 people that are on my safari vehicle. It just happened to be a group like this. So I stood up and off I went. And that was really my entree into conference facilitation and speaking and various other things, which is what I do now. I started as a keynote presenter. I spent the best part of 5 or 6 years traveling around the world telling my lions and other wildlife stories, and then developed a few other things that we'll explore a bit later. So the presentation that I'd like to share with you today is really about 4 iconic African animals. I view the African bush as a giant marketplace, a competitive ecosystem. And if you look at it, every single one of those animals have developed a way of operating, habits, behaviors, that is evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to allow them to perfectly occupy a niche in that particular marketplace. And I've rather simplistically condensed those habits down into a single word or a phrase that I believe is the superpower of that animal, their reason to exist. And the first one, of course, is the lion. And the superpower of lions is their ability to work as a team. And if you think about it, what is the first thing that you want to address when you're thinking about this type of idea? The first is why. Why did lions form prides? Why did African lions form prides when all of your other cats, if you think about your little African wildcat, your caracal, your serval, your leopard, they're solitary for the majority of their lives. Yet physically, your biggest cat, the lion, they got together in teams. It's strange. But the reason they did is as Africa evolved, you've got big open savannas evolving. And onto these big open grasslands or savannas, you've got physically big prey animals, things like buffalo, zebra, wildebeest, giraffe. Sometimes they get together in huge herds. As we speak, almost 2 million wildebeest are crossing the Mara River in East Africa. That's incredible. That's a lot of meat. And if you're a predator, if that's what you do around here is hunt, you need to get access to that supply. But just imagine, a single lioness, it's just like your cat at home. Would you mind if I just grab this chair? So just imagine, I'm going to try and recreate Africa in this conference room. So what we've got over here is we've got a termite mound. Imagine a termite mound, perhaps along the side here next to the stage. There might be a bit of cover. A lioness, just like any cat, uses cover. You've seen how your cat stalks at home. Drops down into a crouch like this. Same thing with the lioness. She uses the cover. Let's say there's a group of zebra out this way on that savanna, and she's targeting those zebra. She uses the cover. Perhaps she uses a little bit more of the brush and things like that along the side here. But eventually, she's got to commit to this open grassland. And the moment that she commits and starts to stalk and make her way across there, one of the many eyes in that zebra herd, they see her coming, they make that zebra alarm call, that wah wah, and they scatter. And a lioness trying to chase a herd of zebra just sees black and white. And as a consequence, she misses. A team of lions, a pride of lions, is different. What happens with a pride of lions is the big experienced hunters, the lionesses, wait in the cover. They send the younger lionesses out this way and around. The ones that are more agile, they put them behind the herd. At the right time, they jump up and they try and catch the zebra. Make no mistake, but their real goal is to push them towards where the big experienced lionesses are waiting in ambush. They hold their ground. They pick one individual, they spring the trap at the perfect time, they close that distance down fast, they leap up, and within seconds that animal's down, and it's game over. Zebra weighs 300 kilograms. A big lioness weighs 130 kilograms. You can see the risk-reward scenario over here. But that risk-reward scenario is balanced out by the ability to work together as a team. That's why lions form prides. There was a competitive advantage for a big cat to get together in a team to take down big, dangerous prey. That's the first thing, and it's the thing that I find in corporations that I work with around the world. When I ask them, just a small executive team, why are you here? Why do you call yourselves a team? Most of them look at me as if I'm crazy. So why? Oh no, that's because it's on the org chart. It says that it needs to be a team over here. No. That's not how nature works. There needs to be a reason, and a team is a very special organizational structure. It's not good enough just relabeling a group and calling it a team. It's not the same thing. So what are some of those raw ingredients to a high-performance team? That's a single lioness. As I said, 120, 130 kilograms. Big cat. Can run 100 meters in under 6 seconds. She's got some serious weapons in her hand. At the top of her ears over here, she's got excellent hearing. She's got a good sense of smell. She's got a set of killing teeth, which are right up high here in the top jaw that she uses to grip, to bite, and to hold, and to suffocate prey. But her biggest asset is her night vision. The darker the night, the more dangerous she is as a hunter. They hunt mostly at night. That big, thick neck, that's a sign of strength. That strength cascades down the chest, and it literally flows down the arms. Just go to your domestic cat at home. All cats have got the same physiology. Just push it at the base of its paw and just see what happens to the whole structure of the paw. They've got a special set of bones and tendons that when flexed, they can double the size of their paw. And a lioness's paw at rest is that size. So you must know when she expands it and unleashes the claw that sits the equivalent of our fingers, our thumb is a dew claw that rides up high here in the inside of her forearm. When she does that, she can deliver the most serious damage very quickly. I knew this lioness well. She was a zebra specialist. You know, when the pride was moving through the bush and they happened to come across a herd of zebra, you could see the rest of the lions and lionesses turn around and say, yep, you're up. And you just saw, she took control. She took control. She got down in the thickets like this. She'd send out those young lionesses. They were all doing the right thing, working beautifully. As that zebra breaks the ground, the cover, and is scared from those other lionesses, you could see her just get lower and lower and lower and lower. She get flat. Her ears come forward like this. Her tail whips from one side to the other. She'll even shift her shoulders from side to side like this, but she won't move. She won't move till the last possible moment. Then she'll go. And she'll just close that distance, use all her speed, close that distance down. But now, the lions aren't the only ones that have evolved over these hundreds of thousands of years. The things that they catch have evolved. And I don't know if you've spent any time out in nature or around horses, but if you come from behind on a horse, even at a full gallop, it can deliver a double hoof mule kick that'll take your head off. And the zebra has evolved that way. It knows that the danger in lion territory often comes from behind. So this lioness closes that distance fast, and she's now behind it. She's on its tail. The zebra knows that. But this lioness has got a special technique where she starts to break to the right like this. And as she shifts her weight and starts to move like this, that zebra follows her and starts to swing his haunches out to match that. But then she comes left, and from 5 meters away, she just flies through the air like this. She commits. She's exposed this flank of the zebra. She's flying through the air like this. She hooks her claws onto the top of the zebra's back, and her strength and her determination and her speed and momentum take her over the top of the zebra, and she pulls that thing down on her. She grabs the muzzle, and often she suffocated the zebra before the other lionesses had got there. She knew zebra. She knew zebra. Think about how that works. She's often been in situations, or would have been in situations, where she's evaluating when to go. And there'll be times when there's a non-perfect set of circumstances, and yet she does it anyway. And the reason that she does that is she knows she's got her teammates to come back her up. That's why she does it. She knows that the rest of the team is watching her and is going to be there on a flash if something goes wrong. This here is probably the most important thing and message that I can give you about high-performance teams and teams extended into an organizational culture, is that there is no miracle formula out there that takes mediocre individuals and turns them into a world-class high-performance team. I have not seen it on a sports field. I haven't seen it in business. The core base of a high-performance team or a culture is individual strength, individual power, individual technical ability. Individuals matter. They really do matter. Powerful prides, powerful teams are made up of powerful individuals. That's the first one. The second one I wanted to talk about tonight was the ability to harness each other's strengths and differences. Does anyone know what this animal is? It's a Cape buffalo. Now this here can be up to 900 kilograms. Big, big animal. Now, buffalo typically live in herds of a couple of hundred. They can get up to 1,000 strong. And they mostly are made up of females and cows. At a particular age, the bulls, the breeding bulls in the herd, they get pushed out of the herd. And they become lone bulls. And at that point in time, their attitude changes. They go from being like cattle in herds to when they're by themselves out, they are super, super, super grumpy, dangerous, and just they're not anyone's friend. So as a pride of lion, you don't just go and catch one of these things as a snack home, like you just go and pick up a McDonald's or something like that. You've got to be focused. So I'm going to change this a little. This should work. So it's no longer a termite mound. It's now my Land Rover. So I'm on safari. I'm in the Okavango Delta, which is in northern Botswana. And I'm following a pride of lion in the morning. But it's getting a bit late, getting later and later. And they've now found this old termite mound. And they're lying on the termite mound. And they're about to go to sleep. This is downtime for lions. The problem is that I've got a group of international guests that have seen every single National Geographic Animal Planet movie ever made about lions before they've got to Africa. And of course, those shows never show them doing boring stuff. It doesn't make for good TV. So that puts pressure on people like me because there's a lot of boring stuff that happens. And I'm telling them about the length of the claw and the eyelashes, and I'm trying to do as best as I possibly can. But I need some help from these lions. When all of a sudden, one of the lionesses, she's lying on her side like this. She just rolls over onto her belly, and I see her body change. She goes like this. I see her ears move forward, and that's binoculars out of the front of the Land Rover. I look on the horizon. I see 300 Cape buffalo coming off the ridge line like this. Now this lioness has spotted that, and she's now into predator mode. So she gets up and she starts to stalk off the termite mound, and she starts to drop down into the classical cat stalk. She goes maybe 10 meters or so, and then she does something that I've never seen happen since. She goes from that stalking motion, she lifts up her shoulders like this, she makes herself, the only way I can describe it is big. She makes herself big like this, conspicuous, and then she starts to make sounds as she's going. Why would she do that? Binoculars up, look. I see what's happened. 20 of the sentry bulls, the bulls that look after the security of the herd, they've seen a nice green patch of grass off on the side here. They've pulled away from the rest of the herd, and they're utilizing this grass. And this lioness has seen that split. Now, the natural logic says, where would she go? Towards the more vulnerable part of the herd, wouldn't she? She doesn't. She swings towards the bulls. And she makes even more noise. She makes herself even bigger. She starts to trot. Then she starts to canter. Finally, she's galloping, sprinting on a collision course with 20 of these big guys. Now, of course, they hear her, see her from a long way away. They form a really tight bunch. And you could almost see their body language saying, bring it on. Bring it on. Because we've been wanting to do this for a long time. And they hold their ground, and you can just see them getting all sort of, the testosterone is kicking in. This lioness runs at them. And just before she's about to get close to them, one of them tries to hook her with his horn like this, but she's agile enough, she dips down, and she keeps going. And she pulls those bulls further away from what you ask, the cows and the calves. And that's when the lionesses up here, the other ones, on the termite mound, they see this gap widen, they see their opportunity, and they're in amongst them. And there's just dust and bellowing. And by the time the lionesses, this lioness over here, by the time the bulls have been kind of caught their wits about them, is a dead cow. They come back, they stomp everything. The lionesses have killed a cow over here. They mill around for a while, but eventually the herd's got to move off. And when they do, they leave behind 600 kilograms of meat. And the pride has been a successful thing. Now, if you ever get a chance to go on safari or go again, this thing's dramatic. It's so exciting to see. But if you see it happen often enough, you start to recognize, you start to analyze it a bit, or I do anyway. If you think back about that situation, those lionesses that were sitting on that or lying on that termite mound, their day was done. They're in switch-off mode. A moment and opportunity presented itself. They switched back on again. And one lioness in particular took action. There wasn't a risk committee that sat off on the side here and evaluated the prospects of success and did various other bits and pieces before they got the go-ahead to deploy. She took action. Initially, the action was what you would expect. The classic stalking motion. But the situation in front of her evolved. And she evolved with that situation. Her strategy changed. And the reason that she could do that with confidence is, again, she was thinking about her teammates that were watching her do what she was doing. That's why she's running at the bulls with confidence. That's the power of team. That's the power of having every individual working towards a common goal. That's the thing with teams. Too often I find in organizations is that people have a different view of what we are hunting. We aren't clear enough about what we are hunting. I'll tell you one thing about nature. I'll tell you one thing about lions. In the middle of a serious buffalo hunt, you don't see a lioness hunting for a warthog here on the side as a snack. They all focus on the big goal. And that's what makes them successful. So I think just those two things, literally just those two things, working on powerful individuals. And that begins in the selection phase, when you're selecting people. Working on powerful individuals and building skills for each individual in a team and keeping them strong, or what I would call powerful, focused towards a common goal. If you just do work on those two things, it'll make a huge difference to any team. So I'm going to play around with a few of these animals, because of course it's not just lions. It's not just lions. Africa and nature in general is complex. So this one is about giraffe. And it's a particular superpower that I think they are. They are just wonderful leaders, and I'll explain why. I'm going to change the format a little bit. We said that this is going to be a bit of interaction here. I'm going to show you a video. I'm going to pretend you're on safari. You're the guide. I'm going to show you a little video. It's just going to be about 5 seconds or so. And then I'm going to ask you to give me some of the obvious things that you see in that video. We'll just shout it out nice and loud. Here goes.
Oh, no.
So you're the guide. What do you see there? What's that?
Searching for the prey. Searching for the prey.
Searching out there, absolutely. They've got wonderful, as an attribute, giraffe have got excellent eyesight. What's another physical characteristic that stands out on a giraffe? Height. It's 5 meters tall. Height. Now let me tell you, if you are 5 meters tall and you can see really well, that's pretty cool. It allows you to do a whole bunch of things, especially if there are lions around. It also allows you to get to the tip of the very highest part of the tree where no other browser or herbivore can reach. You get the best food, which means that you don't have to have a particularly effective digestive system. You don't have to eat a lot. There's a whole bunch of attributes that you can see from an ecological point of view make a real difference here. So that's a good observation. Here's another video clip. Again, I want a little bit of interpretation on your side. What's happening in this clip? Like literally what's happening? That there is an impala. And as we zoom out, what you can see there is it's hanging around a giraffe. Those are giraffe legs. Now, if you're an impala, and we call them the McDonald's of the African bush, because everything eats them. If you're an impala, the best place to hang out is next to a giraffe, because it sees animals from a long, long way away. It's got great hearing, a good sense of smell. You want to be hanging around, a collective noun for giraffe is a journey of giraffe. So you want to be hanging around a journey of giraffe, because that way you stay safe. So if you're driving through the bush and you see some giraffe, you're more than likely going to see a whole bunch of other animals, warthogs, baboon, impala, because they're all hanging around those giraffe and they stay safe that way. Here's another clip. What happens here? These are two females, by the way. What happens there? Like literally what happened? It's walking, isn't it? Where is it walking? Is it walking away or towards the camera? It's walking towards the camera. Now this is a characteristic that giraffe have. Is if you think about it, we're in a wild area over here. And typically wild areas, animals are suspicious of humans. So what's happening over here is that giraffe is seeing the camera or seeing a shape like that and turning around saying, I wonder what that is. It's curious. It's exactly what it is. It's curious. It's curious. Is this thing a threat? Do I have to worry about it? Well, let me just get closer to get a better sense of, and that's what they do. Now, most other animals, when they see a threat, they're gone. In fact, most managers that I deal with in business, if they see a threat, they can't wait to get as far away from it as possible. But leaders that I work with, when they see a threat, they approach it. They try and solve the issue. They don't try and put distance apart. Or worse, get somebody else to try and do the dirty work and watch them fail. So I think giraffe are just wonderful examples of leadership. But here's the thing. All of this is happening. All of this is happening with giraffe. And they are mute. Isn't that incredible? We've now discovered only in recent years that they actually are not mute. They make a low frequency sound that the human ear can't pick up. So we always thought that they were mute. But they are very poor verbal, audible communicators. But boy, do they lead by behavior. Do they lead by example? So I just think that's just a fantastic example for us. As leaders, is that our responsibility is to approach and fix problems and lead from the front. And giraffe are wonderful for me doing that. Leopard is my next animal, and you saw on the slide there, this is all about resilience. Now you've got leopard that live within 30 kilometers of where we're standing right now. And you know what it's like to have a leopard in an environment which you would swear is not wild, it is tempestuous and challenging and threatening. And you know that leopard are the only large predator around the world whose numbers are growing. And the reason the numbers are growing is that they're able to adapt like no other animal around. The ability to bounce back from dislocation is impressive. It's related to the fact that they eat everything from a squirrel through to a baby giraffe. They can live on the beaches all the way to the snow. They have the most incredible ability to adapt. This is a leopard that I knew well that lived on this game reserve that I started my guiding career at. His name was the manager. And his nickname was the manager because we all treated him with massive amounts of respect. That's the typical leopard kind of mode of operation. That's not the manager, that's a female leopard that over a period of time we habituated to vehicles. It wasn't wild, but it got used to cars. But it was did what leopards do best, which is take meat up into trees and obviously cache it up there and eat it at its leisure. They have the most incredible ability to shape their behavior and play what's in front of them. This leopardess became more and more trusting of humans. And one day we were following her on the Land Rover, actually it wasn't on foot, on the Land Rover. She was walking along the road and it was getting towards breakfast time. Now, paint the picture. We've got a hotel that's got 25 beds in it. So this is small. And it's in an area which has got 50,000 hectares. So this is a mass 50,000 football field size. So there are very few humans in this very wild place. So to our amazement that this leopard was actually walking closer and closer and closer to the only location of human habitation in this reserve. Again, unusual. So binoculars had a look. I could see what's happening, that this leopard was lactating. So she had cubs. And then a few things started to click in place in my mind. She paused right outside the main gate of the hotel, right in front of this tree, which we had drove past thousands of times. So this leopard then, its next move was to climb up this tree, which is not unusual, but the next thing that she did was unusual, is that down she went. We didn't realize that the tree was hollow. And then again it clicked. She's got her cubs in there. Now if you're a leopard and you've got lions running around wanting to kill your cubs, or hyenas wanting to kill your cubs, where are you going to put your cubs? You're going to put your cubs as close to humans as you can, because you know the hyena and the lions don't like the humans. But you're able to put it over there and tolerate that because the humans are a lesser threat than the other predators around it. Isn't that incredible? They've worked that whole thing out. The adaptability, the flexibility, the courage to do that. That's why for me they are masters of resilience. My last animal that I wanted to kind of use, and of course we've got both leopard and elephant in India. But these are African elephant, and their superpower is about a community. Now if we think about the inspiration room, this is what this is about. With like-minded people learning from one another in a wonderful environment like this. This is about building a community. And that's elephant's superpower. And the way in which they go about building community is just the variety of communication that they've got is staggering. That's a 6-ton elephant bull. Now, if you're on foot and you're walking with a group of guests on safari, and you come around a corner and you see this big elephant bull coming at you with his ears out and he's trumpeting a lot louder than that, I can tell you. You're not turning around saying, I wonder what he really means. I mean, it's completely, it's unambiguous. That's one way in which they communicate. Here's another way. So that's like a low rum. Anyone that spent a lot of time around elephants will recognize these sounds. That's a low rumbling sound. I'll have guests that'll turn around and say, Ian, your elephants have eaten something. It's their tummy rumbling. You know, no, that's not their tummy rumbling. It's a sound that they actually make with a special organ in their forehead over here. And it's often made by the matriarch of the herd. So elephants are matriarchal in their structure. The bulls at about 12, 13, 14 get pushed out and they form little groups and they'll eventually hang around the breeding bulls. the core of elephant society is a female-led, a matriarch-led elephant herd with cows and calves. And that sound is often the matriarch, and it's often accompanied with what that female's doing over there, which is just draping her trunk around. Often it's a reassuring sound. Don't worry, we've got this, is the human interpretation of that. So it's a much more subtle form of communication, that trumpeting roar that we heard. See if you can pick this. See if you can pick how they're communicating here. Did anyone hear anything there? A bit of wind noise. Camera taking a few clicks. But there's no audible sound there. Ellie's elephants release a low frequency sound wave, which literally booms through the bush that we can't hear. Again, only 20 years ago we started to work this out. We could never quite understand how a female could come into estrus in a herd, and 15 kilometers away there's a breeding bull, and the next thing, within half an hour, they're together. Why? How does that happen? Well, we know that female releases these low-frequency sound waves that literally booms through the bush. So, again, another example of communication not having to be one way. Multiple modes of communication matter. This is the results, of course, because this all is about how does this drive behavior. This is a herd moving its way along a road there. They look a little nervous, and the reason they're nervous is there's a lioness waiting over here. Now, elephants don't have great eyesight. They've got a good sense of smell, but look what happens over here. Watch what happens with a whole herd. You can't really hear it in this room because it's a bit noisy and things like that, but there's that low rumble. That's the matriarch saying, I see something. Calves, where are they? Calves go from sort of wandering around on the outside, straight underneath the mother's legs. And together, the cows, the elder cows, move towards the threat, and it's gone. There's no lion pride that's going to take on a herd like that. One last story to illustrate the power of relationships and community. I worked in Botswana for a while. And in Botswana, there's no rain for the best part of 6 months of every year. And when I say no rain, I mean no rain. And the only water that gathers there is what we call pans or lagoons in this area, which is in the swamps. One day I was sitting, it was blisteringly hot, I was sitting outside my tent, and I heard on the radio that there was an elephant dying at Kubu Lagoon. And I thought, oh, it's unlikely. Elephants lie down all the time. It's the back end of a very dry season. She's probably just tired and exhausted. But I thought, oh, I'll go and have a look anyway. So I picked up my camera bag, got a few guests, off we went in the Land Rover, came around the corner, and sure enough, this elephant was lying down. There were two other elephants in her vicinity. And I picked the binoculars up, and I see, you can just see it in this picture there. See, close to her spine, there are a couple of marks. And those marks are where birds have come flying down and they've started to peck at her. And it's clearly that she's been lying there unresponsive, not unresponsive, but unable to move for probably a couple of days, actually. So this bull, I think she was the matriarch. This bull, young bull, walks from where he is there, walks down to the lagoon, sucks up water in his trunk, comes back, and in this picture over here, he's just dabbing that female's wounds on her back like that. It was unbelievably tender. And then when that was not working, he tried to lever her up with his trunk around the tusk. And he tried to pull her up. You could see her. And when I say hot, I'm talking 45 degrees, like you guys experienced 10 days ago. It was like that. It was blisteringly hot. And when that happens, of course, in Africa, the thunderclouds start to build, and you can see the lightning in the distance, and you know that the rains are going to break in 2 or 3 days' time. And when the rains break, the rain falls within a week. There's grass everywhere, and the cycle starts again. So we were desperate for her to get up. So was the bull, because he really starts to leave her and use every part of his body to get her up. But over a period of about 60 minutes or so, it's clear that she's at her end, and she died there. She took her last breath in front of us. And I must say, I was surprised how emotional I felt about the whole thing. I was a hardened guy by that point in time. I'd seen a lot of brutality, and I felt very teary, because I could see the relationships that existed between those individuals. So that night we went back, we had dinner out in this open boma area, which is like an open eating area. The next morning I say to the guests, let's go and have a look at what happened, the circle of life thing. Hyena would have gone there, and vultures will be there, and it'll be interesting, good photograph, the whole. So we get there, and much to my astonishment, that cow was still where we left her, completely intact. So I was curious. I switched the vehicle off. I see thousands of elephant tracks around her. I think the whole herd had come down overnight to pay their last respects to their matriarch. They're not doing that without a deep, deep relationship that exists. Elephants live for 60 years in the wild. There's a lot of experiences, a lot of depth to that relationship. And I think that's their thing. Elephants have the sense of community that no other animal that I know has. And I think it matters. And I think it matters in business. Too often we get trapped into the busyness of a P&L and a quarterly reporting cycle. I think there is an edge that can be gained from depth of relationships that matters, that builds sustainable success. So I think elephants do that better than most. So those are 4 animals, 4 iconic African animals. The first one, of course, was lions, and I spoke about teamwork. The second one that we chatted a little bit about was giraffe, and the way in which they act as leaders, even though they mute. Then we spoke about leopard and their ability to be adaptable and flexible and be resilient effectively. And then the last animal that I spoke about was about elephant and the way in which they go about building a community. So those are 4 iconic African animals. I think that nature, though, is wonderful around the world. I happen to come from Africa, so that's my first love. But I urge you, even in a city environment, to spend time observing the way in which nature and wildlife has adapted to be able to deal with a pretty challenging environment for it. I think there are lots of lessons that we can take out of us. Every now and then, take your shoes off, walk on the ground, look at the trees, feel the sun on your back. I think that does our soul a lot of good. Builds energy and resilience. So thank you very much. What I would like you to do now, and I'm going to transition, because I promised I might take you on safari. What I'd like you to do whilst I fiddle with the technology is perhaps have a conversation with the person next to you. Was there something that resonated with you in that presentation? It doesn't have to be in business. It can just be in your personal life, with your kids, with your family. It could be business if you want. But let's get and leverage the opportunity to build that community. I mean, that's why you're here. So please take a few minutes. You can have 2 or 3 conversations, I don't mind, but go for it. I'll change the technology and then we'll get on to the next stage. You might also, by the way, refresh your glass. I can promise you that the next stage is going to be about probably 30 minutes or so. So it's not going to be a massively long thing, but it'll be different. Cool? Go for it. Traveling, doing presentations, much like what you saw earlier, at corporate functions around the world. But one of the things that I really wanted to do is make a difference in the people's lives that I was speaking to. And I felt like I needed to do more than just hopefully inspire a few. I wanted to help them. So a couple would come to me after the presentation and say, I love the idea and I like the stories, but how do I operationalize this? How do I take some of these ideas? And for me, the obvious thing was, well, I could run a workshop. There are lots of workshops and I can build skills with workshops and things like that. But I had attended many workshops in my time, and to be honest, I did not enjoy them very much. They were either super technical in nature and they bored me, or they were team building and frivolous. So I thought what I'd try and do is do something a little bit different. We decided what we'd do is we'd take a group of adventurers, friends of mine, and we would set ourselves a physical objective. In our first one, we actually went and climbed a mountain in southern New Zealand called Mount Cook. And we'd spend 2 weeks climbing the mountain. It's a technical mountain, ice and snow. But we would film ourselves whilst we did that. Everything. And then when we came back, we'd revisit the footage as a story of our time there. And we'd identify the key moments from the mountaineering expedition, the things that really mattered. Then we'd take a normal corporate audience that you would deliver a keynote to, break them up into teams of 6 to 8 people, and ask them to imagine that they were us in the mountains, faced with the same set of circumstances that we just faced. We'd play them a video that we shot on scene, which demonstrated that mountaineering scenario and the choices that we faced. And then we'd get them to make a team decision as if they were us. Not only would they make the decision, we would play them the decision, the consequence of their choice, which would lead to another and another and another. And, like, I don't know if as a kid you ever read the book or books, Choose Your Own Adventure. I'm dating myself here. But it's a choose your own adventure experience. Or watch that movie with Gwyneth Paltrow called Sliding Doors. That moment. What happens if I'd done something different to the choice that I actually make? We all go through life wondering that, don't we? Well, that was our idea. But to do it in a corporate setting, of course. So we were naive. We didn't really know what to do. But we went and did it, and much to our surprise, somewhat, it worked. So we thought, well, if it works in the mountains, why wouldn't it work in other areas of our interests? So I've got a big wave surfing friend in Australia that surfs these huge waves. So we filmed his experience of what it's like to surf a 30-foot wave in Fiji. And we went cave diving, and we went sailing, and we went kayaking down the river in Africa. So we did all of these things, and we edited content and then built what we now call virtual adventures for corporate clients. So that's basically what this is about. Our latest one is an animal tracking experience. So I'm going back to my roots. I absolutely love animal tracking. It's a passion of mine. We partnered with a non-for-profit school down in South Africa called the Tracker Academy. And the Tracker Academy's mission is to grow the art of tracking, not just for interest's sake, but to help people that live in areas close to national parks that typically don't have a lot of job opportunities, that are sometimes tempted to go poaching. Our mission is to provide them with the skills to allow them to become employable in the ecotourism industry. And we've had some success in that. We've trained over 300 students over the last 6 years, of which 92% still have gainful employment in the industry. And the multiplier effect back into villages is 25. So for every one job we create, 25 mouths are fed. So it's having a huge impact in Africa. So we partner with the Tracker Academy, and they go out and train young adults, and they formally accredit them in a tracking course. But of course, whilst they do that, they're also carrying GoPros and are filming content, and I love that because that's what creates my stuff, my stories that I can help and inspire other people. So that's what this program is about. Our experts in our field, the subject matter experts, is a gentleman by the name of Renius Nklongo. Renius is one of very few, and I'm literally talking a handful of people that are accredited master trackers in the world. The best way I can describe it is if we're wanting to read, we learn the alphabet. Renius is speed reading. That's the difference between the average person learning how to track and somebody of Renius's ability. He is unbelievably, it's actually magical to watch him in the field. His partner is Alex van der Heefer, and together they are the founders of the Tracker Academy. Alex is a very special friend of mine. And then two other people that are in this film or interactive documentary, Sam Makamu and Trevor Makakule, are graduates of the Tracker Academy. So the mission for this corporate exercise, training exercise, fun experience, but learning too, this is the mission that we want people to role play towards. So we're asking them to preserve Africa's wildlife. We want them to develop the next generation of trackers and also to serve the ecotourism industry. So that's their mission that they set out on this corporate workshop. And all the decisions that they have to make in the videos are about balancing those three things. And sometimes that gets complicated. Sometimes you've got to forfeit the developing elements of the next tracker because you want to preserve Africa's wildlife. Yeah, there's this complexity in it. Of course, the reason that we choose tracking as a metaphor is it's only in the last 8,000 years or so, as a species, we've gathered together in communities, in villages, in cities. Before then, and for the best part of 300,000 years before then, we were all hunter-gatherers. So we all survived roaming and connected to nature. And when you learned to track then, you didn't track for fun. That was about protein. It was a survival mechanism. So quite literally, we are all born to track. We may not track animals, but we track our health. We track our wealth. We track our individual body language. We are hardwired to track. And I think there are still lessons that we can learn from hunter-gatherers that can help us in the modern world. It's amazing. And the art of tracking connects us to that. So that's why we picked tracking as a metaphor for this particular program. I want to show you how we make these things. So we go down into the field in Africa, in the bush, and we film trackers doing tracking things. on missions. Sometimes they can get a little bit sketchy, can get a little dangerous out there, but we try and be as real as possible. My rules are, in my business, it has to be authentic. If it's not authentic, it's not made up, it's real. So it needs to happen to our team, otherwise it doesn't make the cut. I'm sure there are a few of you thinking to yourself, well, how does this really work? Well, I'm going to show you a video that we shot down in the field. And it's going to set the scene for a typical tracking scenario. Something that we face all the time. And then I'm going to ask you to have a discussion with somebody close to you. And that discussion is going to be about the options that I present you to. And I'm going to ask you to make a team decision. Everyone clear about that? Okay, the video itself is going to go for about 60 seconds or so. Hopefully we've got the sound. So here goes. Here comes the video. At the end of the video, I'm going to ask you to have a conversation. Turn it up. Turn it up.
In the bush, getting up early has its rewards as lions will often roar just before sunrise. The lion is close and there's no time to lose.
Io un galilea really.
Io era un punto lì, fammi là, io fresh.
Inside.
Fammi un punto inside. Inside. When comes you talking about that?
This is the lioness that we were heard calling for when we were in the camp. This is her tracks right here. Fresh tracks.
The tracks are fresh and the lioness is on the move. They like to walk along game paths or roads when they're moving quickly.
We're busy following this lioness's tracks. We've just, however, had the most surprising thing happen to us. A hyena came out of the bush at us.
It's rare for any predator to approach a group of humans on foot.
Kan je feel it? Kan.
Renia suspects that it may also be tracking the lioness in the hope of finding an easy meal.
So we have a choice to make. Do we follow that hyena, because it may well be also tracking this lioness, and get there quicker, or do we continue working this lioness's tracks?
Okay, so this particular scenario, obviously we want to find a lioness. So in the early morning, we know lions call in the early morning. So we're out early, listening, we hear a call. So we jump in the vehicle, we close the gap as fast as we can, but eventually we get down there, and now, of course, this animal's not going to be on a road. It's going to be somewhere. We don't know where, so we need to find it. So we find those tracks. Renius quickly identifies the fact that it's a female, and she's moving quickly. So we're on the trail. We're 20 minutes into the tracking process when all of a sudden we see this hyena behaving unusually. They typically don't go anywhere near humans, and yet this thing is wandering around, and it becomes clear that it's doing something. And then we think, well, maybe it's following this lioness. It's trying to track the lioness like we are, and its hope is it's going to get an easy meal, isn't it? So that presents a choice for us as trackers. Do we follow the hyena, which means that we actually have to leave the only tangible evidence that we've got in front of us? We have to now move and leave our evidence behind us and take a speculative run at following this hyena and just literally following it to actually get to the lioness. And if we do so, we're going to do it faster, aren't we? We're going to be saving energy. Or do we stick with the tracks? That's the only animal that makes that particular set of evidence. And if you leave it, there's a risk there. But we know that that animal is mobile and it's moving fast. In fact, highly likely that it's moving further and further away from us. So we'll eventually find that animal, but it could be 2 days. So do we take a bit of a gamble, close the gap, follow the hyena, given that we know that it may not necessarily be following a lioness, it could be following another animal, couldn't it? Another predator. Is it worth the risk? So if you were my tracking team down in the bush, what would you do? Would you follow the hyena or follow the tracks? Now what I'd like you to do is break up into threes. We'll make it 3. Break up into threes. Have a conversation about what you've seen in the video, what you see over here. I'll be wandering around if you need more information. Ultimately though, in 2 minutes time, I want you to come up with a choice. Your choice is either follow hyena or follow tracks. I'm going to get you to commit to it. By the way, some rules or guidelines. Rule number 1, you have to make a decision. No kicking the can down the road. This is not business. You have to make a decision. The second thing is you have to make a decision of the 2 options that I presented you. You can't invent a third one, because that's not what happened. So we want to be as realistic as possible. So 2 minutes, group of 3, let me know. Is it follow the hyena or follow the tracks? You're not going to take a speculative gamble. What's the prize? Yes. When they're hunting, they'll often separate. They'll still communicate with one another. Woo, 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 you know, that is, but yes, you're right. They do live in clans, what they call clans. But when they're moving around and looking for food, it makes sense that they spread out. And this is a single one. Yeah.
What is the purpose of following the
Because we want to, we're in an ecotourism area and we want to find that lion so we can. 10 seconds to make your call. Okay, we're ready. So this is going to be interesting. So, if you've decided that to follow the hyena is your choice, on balance, it's the best decision, please raise your hand. Follow the hyena. What's that? Follow the hyena, that's your choice.
You are asking us to say all the decisions.
Yeah, so I'm asking you to commit one of the other. So if you've decided follow hyena is the one, raise your hand. So it's about 25% of the room. If you've decided that follow the tracks is the better option, of course, the balance, 75. There's some people in the room that are saying, I don't want to do either of those. Fair enough. So, I mean, I don't know, everyone's probably a little different here, but if you've had a discussion, there's a chance that with 2 or 3 people, that somebody want to do one thing and somebody want to do the other. And there's a reasonable argument for either one, isn't there? And that's what we try and build into these things, is we're trying to replicate the kind of discussions that we have every day, which is really that life is about a series of decisions, isn't it? And it's about influencing others to coming towards some common joint point of view and then moving forward. That's the essence of life. So that's what we try and do with these programs. So to show you how this works, of course, is that 25% of teams or people in the room that decided hyena was an option, I'm going to show you the consequence of that choice. Okay? So it's not just a theoretical experience. And then, of course, we'll come back and then we'll show the other 75% of people the consequence of your choice. So everybody gets to see everybody else's choices. Sliding doors. Yeah? Vicarious living. So follow hyena, here goes.
This is the best tracker in the animal kingdom, hyena.
Set it up, mate. Perfect.
Its sense of smell, hearing, and sight is acutely developed. The team is upbeat. They have used this tactic before to close the gap on lion.
What happened here, there's the old bones. The old bones.
The team is now tracking the hyena and lion. They are making good progress. Up ahead, they hear a baboon alarm call.
And you've also got a tree squirrel alarm just here. You must come woody thicket. You may be very close by. How beautiful is this? Being on foot with wild lions. Eh? So we don't bash about the bush, impacting on animals and disturbing them in their natural habitat. Our idea is to find them and move away and leave them in a peaceful state where they haven't run from us nor have they shown us any aggression. The best trackers in the world are able to achieve that consistently. And the more times we connect on foot with lions or with leopards, the more relaxed they become. They trust that we're not going to threaten them. We're not going to shoot them. We're not going to try and steal their meat or hurt their cubs or anything. Slowly, over many years of refined, tenacious tracking, have now started to trust humans on foot. And this is very special, and there are very few places left in Africa where you have this type of relationship. This is the pinnacle of a genuine relationship between humans and animals.
Congratulations to all those that chose that option. Well done. Of course, follow tracks is also a legitimate thing. Let's see what happened there.
The lioness is still following the road and she is moving at pace. Renias uses this as a real-time teaching moment to explain to Sam what the lioness is up to.
This lioness is walking fast. She may be far away.
When following at speed to close the gap, the tracker often loses the trail. This is a very natural part of the process. A good tracker has the skill and experience to get back on track and uses all the available signs to do so.
We lost the tracks briefly, but then Renier saw the direction from where the impala had been running, and that helped us get back onto the trail. Now an impala is alarmed. There's definitely something going on here.
The impala are on the other side of the river, and a normally dry riverbed is now full of hidden dangers. The team need to decide whether they cross the river or head back to the Land Rover.
Okay, so this one's a bit more complicated. So we've obviously got a river over here. Sure, we can hear it. We suspect that the impala are alarming at the lion, but they're inaccessible. It would not be safe to cross there. So do we move downstream and cross the river over there? And of course, we lose time and its energy. Or do we go all the way back, return to the vehicle, then head around and try and come and head them off? So this one has got a bit more runway before we actually find it. Now, in a typical experience like this, there might be 7 or 8 decisions that are made. So they start to compound as you go deeper into the decision tree. So depending on the way in which you set yourself up as a team and evaluate your guiding principles and how you make decisions and who's going to lead and what ultimately your success looks like, you're going to have very different inputs into your decisions. And of course, along the way, we stop and we talk about why you made the decisions you did and how does that connect to your organization and what outcomes you're looking to achieve from a cultural development point of view. So these programs go everything from sort of 90 minutes, which is a high impact team building type experience, all the way through to a couple of days where we'll do a virtual adventure, we'll do one of these, we'll stop and we'll talk about the company's strategy. and then we'll do a little bit more of the virtual adventure, and then we'll stop and we'll talk about an implementation plan. And then we'll stop, you know what I mean? So it's integrated flow that becomes an energy management device as much as anything else in an experience like that. So wanted to give you a bit of a flavor of what that looks like. This particular virtual adventure, and there's 5 of them, but this particular virtual adventure on animal tracking is built around what we call the tracking success pathway, which is like a little model. And if you think about it, I'll quickly run through it and then we'll call it quits. If you think about it, let's just put it in a business setting. Let's say it's a sales setting. We've got a target that we're shooting for. It's much like from a tracking point of view or a tracking team, they want to have an encounter. They want to find the animal. They want to have a result. That's important. So they begin with the end in mind. It's that classic thing, isn't it? You need to know your target. You need to know your customer when you're approaching it over there. So step number 1, what are you tracking? Get clear about what that is. Then working back from that, what's the first thing that you do? If you're going to go and look for a leopard, leopards don't live in the middle of open plains at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So don't go and look for evidence there. Go to the area where where finding evidence is probable to start tracking. But once you're there, you might find hundreds of leopard tracks. How do you determine which set of tracks is the one that's going to give you the greatest return on energy? Because that's what we're doing. We're trying to find our target with the least amount of resources spent. Once you've determined what that is, and it's an important gateway, but once you've decided, then it's about actually following. And when you're following, you're doing 2 things. You are zooming in the minute detail of what you're seeing in this environment. The tiniest little break in the scrape on the ground can tell you where you are. Smell, all of those things matter. So you are deeply analytical at that point in time. But at the same time, the best trackers are zooming out, and they are very aware that the environment itself is going to give them clues that is going to allow them to use their creative ability to close the gap. So zoom in and zoom out. Focused and diffuse thinking. Analytical and looking for patterns, all of which work. So that's the follow side of it. Then once you're on that thing, your next mission is closing the gap. Find ways to close the gap as fast as possible. Find ways to close the gap as fast as possible. That's about creativity and imagination. Every track, even the best trackers, the master trackers, they lose the trail. But losing the trail doesn't mean that you lost. It means that you've just got to get back on track. So there's a message there around resilience, isn't there? And then finally, of course, nothing matters if you don't have an encounter. If you don't deliver the result, that's ultimately what you're striving for, is to reach your definition of success. So along the way, of course, we have what we call mindsets that each one of those phases, the best trackers have a certain mindset at each stage. So when you're looking at find the track, it's all about discernment. When you're going for the encounter, it's about reverence. It's about respect. And then, of course, the flip side of that is what is the trap? So when you're finding the track, the first thing is to get busy. The anxiousness to get things runs on the board is a trap. You aren't analytical, you aren't careful enough, you aren't patient enough. So you can see, I'm starting to double click on this content, and I can see a few people are saying, I am desperate for a drink right now. So with that, I'm going to thank you very much for allowing us to be part of your inspiration room. Balaji and I are very keen in setting up a presence here in India. I've worked all over the world. I've never ever come to India. This is my first visit. I'm hugely excited about being here. There's an energy, thank you. There's an energy here that I think is missing actually in a lot of other areas that I operate. I'm very keen in actually developing product here. So I want to go tracking here. I want to duplicate the Tracker Academy model here. And I want to do work with an emerging superpower. That's what I want to do. So Balaji is going to be part of my team. Balaji, would you stand up, please? Please introduce yourself to Balaji. He's got a fascinating story himself. He's an absolute expert at design thinking. For those of you that are aware of that methodology, and we are going to work together in shaping and modifying the content that we've got, existing content that we've got for the Indian market. So we'd love to welcome any observations, comments, anything that you'd like, please. I'm very keen to learn. So thank you very much, everyone. Nishad, thank you in particular. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. No worries. Good on you.
Just some quick plugins. Thank you so much, everybody. We were wondering how to fill up the room, but glad there's so many of you here. My name is Laik, and I serve as the president of the advertising club. So glad that we have so many people here. And just a little more plug on what Inspiration Room is all about. What happened today, over a period of 2-3 hours, we all drew out a lot of inspiration today, right? For example, how many of y'all saw yourself as a lion? Raise your hand. Lioness. How many of y'all? How many of y'all saw you as a giraffe? Nice. So these are takeaways, no? Like when we were sitting and chatting with each other itself, we were wondering, saying that, okay, oh, I'm seeing this giraffe is muted, doesn't talk, but it's so tall and just sees everything and just gives that little signs to safeguard everybody else. So nice, I'm saying as leaders, we have so much to learn from nature, so much to learn from all around us. And sometimes we forget to ask these questions, learn from each other and all of that. So our premise is this from an ad club standpoint, that we have amazing leaders around us. Right? There's so much to learn from around us. Last third Thursday of the last month, we were talking about generative AI. And today we are talking about the wild. I think you saw the extremes. That's the difference, and so much of fun, right? That was geeky and a different level. We were all, the practitioners in the room, we were all looking at it and wondering, oh my God, what is my world going to become? And suddenly here, we are like grounded and said, look around us, learn from animals, right? So Inspiration Room is going to happen on the third Thursday of every month. We have 10 episodes which is already planned. And it's going to be craziest. So follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow us on LinkedIn. We have a community, a WhatsApp community. So my KRA is to open one more new WhatsApp group, but already there is a WhatsApp group. So join that WhatsApp group. Some of the committee members are here without whom this program wouldn't have happened. Raise your hands, committee members. So all of them have put in their bit to get all of us in this room and Ian here. Thank you, Ian. Beautiful, amazing. I don't have words. So much I could gather personally from your style and stuff like that. So I'm going to replicate a lot of them. I don't know how to make those animal sounds, but we'll try. Yeah, Balaji, thank you. Without you, this wouldn't have happened, right? Without you, we wouldn't have got to Ian. Thank you so much. We'll be of help to you. Any help to you, please reach out to us. Happy to connect the dots for you. Our media partners, Media News for You, media brief, agency FAQs, they did a lot of communication for us, so I thank them. Nishin Company for putting this together, Singularity Project for doing a lot of good communication around this project. And yeah, thank you all of y'all. And if y'all are not in the group, please join the group. And we love doing this. Yeah, this has been crazy, and we're looking forward to the next one. Follow our pages. You won't be disappointed. Okay? Thank you so much. This entire thing. There goes the man. And yeah, we'll continue to do this. Thank you. Yes, please go ahead. Hippo. Spend time around hippo. They're regarded as the most dangerous animal in Africa.
No, I'll have a go. All right, so this is, I'm not a great hippo guy, but I'll give it a go. That's a hippo. That's the closest I can get.
Thank you. Get to know each other. All of us have been here. Sometimes in the name of networking, we just change cards and go off. But continue the journey, split it into smaller groups, have a drink, speak to each other, get to know each other, speak, share your learnings. Okay? Thank you so much, guys.
We had such fun. Balaji Khalan and I from Red Leaf had such fun delivering a program here at the Inspiration Room on behalf of the Advertising Club. Our intention here was to inspire people with lessons from nature. So today basically what we did is we did a keynote presentation. We looked at 4 iconic African animals. We looked at lions, we looked at giraffe, we looked at elephant, and we looked at leopard. And we spoke about topics like how to create high-performance teams, how to be resilient, adaptable, and flexible, how to be great leaders, and finally, how to build a community. And our understanding of that's the point of the Inspiration Room, is to build a community of practitioners, share best practice, and move forward together. So we had a lot of fun. It certainly fulfilled our aim, which was to build a community. And I hope people enjoyed the experience as a whole. So thank you very much to Nishad and the team for inviting Balaji and I to the Inspiration Room. Thank you.
It's really fun. I got to learn about a lot of animal instincts and how it connects to real world business. And since this is the Ad Club of Bangalore, it was really fun. I can't wait to go challenge my team and do something new. Bye.
Hello, my name is Avinash Subramaniam. I'm a writer. So what I really liked about this workshop is how creative it was. I mean, usually you don't really draw parallels between wildlife and corporate life. So I think the way he managed to draw a parallel between these two seemingly disparate aspects was something I really found interesting. Also, I am from advertising and I have done work corporate campaigns where I have used animals in my communication. To see that implemented here was something I found really interesting. And also, I thought his passion for the subject was communicated so beautifully, and the audience really took to it, which is why I really enjoyed this whole program.
The Inspiration Room is a product that we at the Advertising Club are trying to build to inspire the young generation of advertisers and advertising people so that they can see beyond their day-to-day work and kind of learn a lot of new and emerging areas. Today's session was about how humans can learn from animals, and especially lions, giraffe, leopards, elephants and more. What an amazing session it was about how animals can teach us leadership skills. Thanks Ian Schubach for inspiring us.
Hi, this inspiration room was a very actually interesting session that Ian Schubach has done. So we always see net job when actually we were kids, but this is first time I'm hearing like how leadership can be combined with animals, how we can learn from them. It was a very nice session, I would like to say. Thanks.
So it's my first time to be here, and I really enjoyed the company. The gathering was so good, and I learned a lot of qualities here, and yeah, I love to be here again. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nitesh Nittur. I'm with the Advertising Club as a member. I run a company called Jigsaw Entertainment from Bangalore. It's a celebrity management company. Today, this evening, it was wonderful with Ian Schubach bringing his experiences from the wild, from Africa, and relating it to our daily business life. And it was quite thrilling in the way he also got us engaged with our minds, thinking of what decisions to make. And it was a very good evening. I mean, overall, it was interesting and exciting to be part of such a session. So I thank the Advertising Club for organizing such an inspiration evening, and all the best to all the future endeavors to the Advertising Club. Thank you.